reason why most people actually get into fitness in the first place is usually one main thing, and that's to look better naked. There ain't nothing wrong with that. We all aspire to have a certain look or a certain aesthetic to help with our self-confidence, to feel better, to be able to carry ourselves throughout our day-to-day tasks in a different way, all right? If you're a guy, usually you want to look like that one superhero character that you find in that movie, or maybe that one comic book character that you see with the bulging muscles, vascular, six-pack abs, ripped, shredded to the bone. Usually, if you're a female on the other end of the spectrum, you usually want to look like that one model that you saw maybe on Instagram or in a magazine, with all the proportions, all the right places, toned legs, toned arms, nice bubble butt, nice little 4-pack, all the right stuff in all the right places, like I just said. However, where both ends of the spectrum ultimately fail to see is what does it take to actually get to that point, right? And that comes down to one thing, no matter if you're a guy or you're a girl, you gotta put on muscle mass. Now, that may sound contradicting, especially if you're on the female end of the spectrum, because most females, what they perceive to be a reality is, oh, I don't want to lift weight like a dude, I'm gonna get all bulky and stuff like that. And that's not how the female body works. See, females do not produce as much testosterone as men do. Being that that's the case, the way the female body will respond in contrast to a man's body as far as applying the necessary stimulus to the muscles is drastically different. That will ultimately come down to your genetic makeup, right? So that being said, in this video, what I'm going to show you how to do is how to actually build muscle the right way, making the process as simple as possible. So for those of you who don't know who I am, the name is William Santiago III. I'm a NASM certified personal trainer and based out of New York City. So for those of you looking to get into the best shape of your life, whether it be you're here in New York or somewhere else, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Will to Gain. I do both in-person and online coaching. That out of the way, the whole plug and promotion, let's get right into the details of this video at hand. So, the first thing that we need to pay attention to, if you have been watching my previous videos, you would already know this one, is we have to apply the right amount of stress to the muscle we're trying to work. How do we do this? Well, we want to apply either some form of load. So like I said in the previous video, you can either, there's a big difference, right? There's a big difference between using a 10-pound weight versus a 100-pound weight. Obviously, you're going to get a lot more stress on that given muscle group with the 100 pounds versus 10 pounds. That being said, that's more of the broad spectrum of how to look at it, right? Let's say I'm the type of person that right now all I can do is lift that 10-pound weight, right? But over time, I need to work up to that 100-pound weight. Well, that's where detail number 2 comes into play, and that's inducing progressive overload. So basically, all progressive overload is, it's basically getting stronger over time, right? So how do we go from that 10-pound to that 100-pound? Well, let's say, for example, the first week we're exercising, right? Let's take squats, for example, right? Let's say we can only do squats with 10-pound weight, right? So with that first week, let's say we could do 3 sets of 8, right? So next week, what you would want to try to do is, instead of trying to bump up the weight, what you want to do is actually add an additional rep. Reason being is because we're working within a specific rep range. So the quote-unquote hypertrophy rep range, that ranges between 8 to 12 reps. The reason why I say quote-unquote is because depending on the individual, this can either be a little bit lower end on the spectrum or even higher end on the spectrum, or even depending on how you manipulate the sets and reps, which is a whole other topic for a whole nother video. So I'm just using this example right here to make this as simple as possible for you guys. So let's say week 1, we're 3 sets of 8 with the 10 pounds doing squats, Then the next week, 3 sets of 9. And then the third week, 3 sets of 10. And then so on and then so forth until we're able to do 3 sets of 12. Once we hit 3 sets of 12, what do? At that point, I guess 10 pounds would be pretty easy. Let's bump up the weight to 15 pounds and then reset the process again. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Up the weight, reset the process again. 20 pounds, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then so on and then so forth. And then eventually, even though it is a long process to get to that 100-pound weight, what's going to happen along the way is, one, you're going to be developing the right motor patterns for whatever exercise you're doing. 2, you're going to develop that mind to muscle connection that I always preach to you guys. Once again, if you haven't watched my previous videos, go watch them. You understand what I'm talking about. And then on top of that, being that we're progressively getting stronger over time, you're going to notice differences in your body, your physique, and the way your legs are going to look. You're going to have more quad tricep sweeps, right? Maybe you'll have a little bit more tone definition in that area. You'll probably have some details in the glutes you never even known about, and things of that nature, right? So it really comes down to stress and progressive overload. Now, let's say we don't have access to weight, right? Okay, especially given the situation at hand at the time of me making this video. If I don't have weight, how do I still induce progressive overload? Well, we just continue to add repetitions. So let's say for whatever reason you don't have weights to add to your squat, right? What we'll do, we'll work up, let's say 3 sets of 12. Okay, so then we'll do 3 sets of 13, 3 sets of 14, and 3 sets of 15. Eventually, though, you want to be mindful of how high in the rep range that you go in. Reason being is because eventually it goes from being a strength and muscle building exercise to an endurance-based exercise. The minute that something becomes an endurance-based exercise, we're no longer focusing on the muscle building process. We're more so focusing on actually developing the adaptation to deal with the amount of repetitions that we're actually doing. So you're being able to endure that exercise for a longer period of time. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, how do we go from transitioning from our regular squat, but to not do so many reps that becomes an endurance-based exercise, instead modifying it to become, once again, a strength builder? Well, we modify the exercise accordingly. Instead of doing 2 legs at a time, maybe you could do 1 leg at a time. So focus on pistol squats, right? Or maybe change up the movement pattern. Instead of doing a squat, you could do a split squat, right? And then take care of your business there, do the split squat. In these manners, what we're doing now with the body is inducing progressive overload by increasing the demand of the lever, right? Modifying the lever of an exercise is another way in which we can progressively overload the demand of the exercise, which is the stress that's being applied on the muscle, and then once again apply the same principles I was just previously explaining. So let's say, once again, we're here. Let's say we decide, once again, we're doing split squats, right? We're doing split squats, right? Boom. Week 1, let's say we could only do 8 each leg. Cool. Week 2, 9 each leg. Week 3, 10, and so on and so forth. And it rinses and repeats the process. So that's just one example. Well, 2 examples of how you can go about progressively overloading exercise, either with weight or by adjusting the lever. See, sometimes we have to get a little bit creative as far as what we have to do in order to get the amount of stress and to be able to progressively overload the exercise. However, it just comes down to those 2 things: stress, the proper amount of stress, and progressively overloading over time, right? Once you apply those 2 things, no matter the muscle group, whether it be your legs, whether it be your chest, whether it be your back, whether it be your biceps, whether it be your triceps, no matter the muscle group, these same principles will apply as far as building up muscle. So let's recap. First of all, we need stress, right? Cool, we established that. We need to apply a certain amount of stimulus to that muscle to give it a reason to grow. Secondly, we need some form of progressive overload. So some form or way to progressively get stronger over time to then see the results accumulate over time. And then lastly, what we need is a proper scheme in which we can visually track and progress the progressive overload that we're trying to induce over time, which is why I always recommend people just to start off with to keep it very simple, 8 to 12 reps, so that way you don't get a headache, right? So that's just one of many ways to skin the cat. There's several different other ways in which you can go about, modifying reps, modifying exercises, and so on and so forth. But that being said, as long as you understand that basic principle of enough stress for the muscle group and applying progressive overload, that's basically all you need as far as knowing how you need to build muscle. So that being said, if you liked the video, you liked the information, hit that like button down below. If you want to see more videos in the future from me, subscribe, turn on post notifications. And one question for you guys, what do you want to see me go over next? So until next time, guys, stay safe.